My husband's girl best friend is pregnant, and she says it's his. I'm going to ruin his life. I met my husband when I was 18 and he was 21. He swept me off my feet with date nights, fancy gifts, and constant attention. We got married at 20 and I thought I'd found my soulmate. I make 6 figures in tech while he works an office job that doesn't pay much, so I handle all the bills and most of the housework. I never minded because I loved him. Everything was perfect until last month when he casually mentioned his best friend Laura. 4 years together and he'd never brought her up once. When I asked why, he got defensive, saying it never came up and that I was being paranoid. I found out he'd been seeing her at parties during his supposed overtime shifts. I demanded to see their texts and they were completely platonic. I felt guilty for doubting him, so when he invited me to Laura's mom's anniversary dinner, I agreed. I even bought a nice dress wanting to make a good impression and find some female friends. The second we walked in, Laura ran up and wrapped her entire body around his arm. She dragged him to the garden without even acknowledging me. I stood there like an idiot holding a bottle of wine I'd brought. Her mom found me in the kitchen and was incredibly sweet. She made me feel welcome and we talked for an hour about our lives. Then came dinner. I sat next to my husband and Laura walked over. Can you move? She asked. I looked around confused. The only empty seat was next to her mom and uncle. Why wouldn't you want to sit with your mom on her anniversary? I asked. Laura stared at me. Because I want to sit next to him. I turned to my husband waiting for him to say something. Instead he nodded at me. Just move. You're being childish and making a scene. My blood was boiling, but I didn't want to cause drama, so I moved. For the next hour, I watched Laura touch his arms, laugh at everything he said, and rub his back while telling him how strong he'd gotten. She kept glancing at me with this smug look. Then I put some brisket on my plate and she goes, "Are you really going to eat all of that?" My husband laughed. Laura is slim and works out constantly, so coming from her, it destroyed me. Her mom stood up and said, "That's inappropriate, Laura," but the damage was done. I excused myself to the bathroom and called my brother. He said I was overreacting and being jealous. I tried to calm down and went back to finish dinner. When it ended, my husband said, "I'm staying here tonight. You embarrassed me." He didn't come home until 5 p.m. the next day. For a month, things were cold between us. He was distant and cruel. Then this morning, I woke up to a text from Laura, a photo of a positive pregnancy test. "It's your husband's. Time to get divorced." I sat there shaking. When my husband came home at 6 a.m., he threw his keys down and headed upstairs. I followed him saying we needed to talk. "I'm tired," he said, brushing past me. "I know about you and Laura." He stopped and turned around. "What are you talking about?" I showed him the text. He looked at it and started laughing. Actually laughing in my face. Something snapped. I ran to our bedroom, grabbed a suitcase from under the bed, and started throwing his clothes in. He screamed at me, calling me psycho and saying I was ruining everything over nothing. The word that broke me was when he called me a jealous, crazy bitch who should be in therapy. I told him to get out or I'd call my dad. He grabbed his half-packed suitcase and a plastic bag and left. I called Laura's mom, still crying. She answered worried. I told her everything. There was a long pause. Then she said, "Sweetie, I only met your husband 2 years ago." Laura introduced him to the family. They're not childhood friends. Everything clicked. The overtime, the secret friendship. All lies. I texted Laura, "You can have him. Can't wait till he cheats on you too." Then I screenshotted everything and called a lawyer. Laura called me at 11 p.m. screaming. She said I was a hypocrite because my husband told her I cheated first and that I was abusive, that I hit him and threw his stuff out the window. She said the pregnancy test was fake. It belonged to her friend and she sent it to teach me a lesson for being a bad wife. I was horrified. "Laura, I'm 5'4" and he's 6'1". I never touched him. She went quiet. Then she admitted something else. My husband had been pressuring her to sleep with him multiple times. It freaked her out, which is why she called. I asked her to meet me. We met at a coffee shop the next day. She showed me messages from my husband. Dozens of texts calling me controlling, saying I didn't appreciate him, claiming I refused intimacy. All lies. Laura broke down crying. She thought she was helping him escape an abusive wife. Instead, she'd been manipulated. That's when I made my decision. I called his office and asked to speak to HR. Turns out my hardworking husband hadn't worked there in 6 months. He was unemployed and had been living off my income while lying about overtime. I filed for divorce, took screenshots of everything, and froze our joint accounts. This morning, I sent a folder to his family, his friends, and every job he'd applied to. Evidence of the lies, the manipulation, the fake pregnancy scheme. His mom called me sobbing, asking what happened. I sent her everything. She hasn't spoken to him since. My lawyer says I'll get everything. The house, the savings, all of it. He destroyed his own life, and I just documented it.